Top 10 Final Expense Insurance Closes. If you use these closes in your final expense presentations, you will close more deals. I'm Russ Jones, the Leads Junkie. Hit the subscription button for more marketing tips. Here's the best final expense insurance closes you can use in your presentation. Stay to the end of the video, and I have 2 additional videos on how I averaged $500 a day using postcards, how to sell over the phone with live transfers. Number 1. In order to get this program started, I need to complete this 1-page memorial guide. Where was your mom born? If you get an answer, write it on the guide. If you get an objection, answer it and ask another question on the guide. Number 2. If you were killed in a car accident, who would be responsible to make arrangements for your funeral? Write down on the memorial guide the person. Number 3. If you passed away tomorrow, how would your family pay the $8,000 for your funeral expenses? As you know, nobody has a lease on life. Wouldn't you agree? We're not going to get out of this world alive. You agree to that? Number 4. Do you want to leave a living legacy or a living nightmare for your family when it comes to planning and paying for your funeral service? So, let's get started. What funeral home do you want? If they prospect tells you the $40 per month is too expensive, you then quote a smaller amount to cover part of the funeral insurance, or you can say the following. According to the federal government, the average weekly food budget for 2 people in a household expense is between $25 to $50 per week. Don't you think you can save $10 a week for your funeral service? And every time you make a payment through your checking account, you're just saying how much you love your family. You do love your family, don't you? Number 5. If the husband tells you they have $20,000 in life insurance to pay for final expense, you ask the following. Number 6. How long do you think your spouse is going to live after you die? How many expenses are you going to lock for her or him to pay? Sometimes we don't die in the comfort of our home. We leave a big debt behind. 7. Mr. Thomas, if you died of a heart attack or terminal cancer and your widow was down at the funeral home with your daughter planning your funeral, and the funeral director with his $1,000 suit on and sitting behind a $2,000 oak-carved desk, asks your widow, how do you plan on paying for Big Tom's funeral and cemetery? And you tell him he had $20,000 in group life insurance, how much do you think that funeral is going to cost? A lot, right? Number 8. No, it won't cost $20,000, hopefully, but it will be a lot. Number 9. Plus, I know it's hard to believe when you pass away your spouse has to go on living. The average widow lives at least 8 years longer than a man. She is already 6 years younger than you. She is going to be around for years after you're buried in the ground. You can also leave behind a huge debt that your spouse will have, that additional burden around their neck. But have you ever thought about what happens to debt when you die? The average American has about $29,800 in personal debt. Not. You can feel confident that you're leaving behind a legacy and not a financial burden. In this state, the surviving spouse is legally responsible for any debt the deceased took on. You wouldn't want that, would you? Number 10. Not everyone is approved of this funeral plan. We have to get you approved. It takes 2 to 3 weeks, and when I bring back your funeral plan, we can go over it together. Objection. I want to think about it. When you hear this statement, it is a no. They have already thought about it. It's 100% a no. So, you say, I understand how you feel. That's why once we get you approved and I bring back the policy, you have 30 days to review it, and for any reason, like you thought you weren't going to die, we would refund your first payment. Or a rich uncle showed up driving a fancy Cadillac, smoking a big cigar, and told you he was going to pay for your funeral services, you wouldn't need the plan. Wowed you. That's fair enough, isn't it? So, which funeral home do you want? We put this guide on file. At the funeral home. Name a few funeral homes in your town. I hope this helps you with your sales. My best month selling final expense was 55 applications. I worked my butt off and won a trip to Hawaii. And in a 10-year period sold over 2,500 policies and made $1.2 million in renewals. To learn more, you can visit my website at www.finalexpensemillionaire.com. Again, that's www.finalexpensemillionaire.com. Hit the subscribe button.